What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Inside Lines Podcast. I'm your host, Atoya Burleson. Week 8 did not disappoint. Jayden Daniels' last play of the game was a Hail Mary to Brown, and they ended up beating the Bears, which keeps Washington in first place in the NFC East. The craziest part about that is the Chicago Bears was, of course, winning, and cornerback Tyrique Stevenson was taunting the crowd because he thought they had won. And then all of a sudden, last play of the game, Daniel halts up this pass. He runs across, tips it, and the ball falls right into the hands of Brown. When I say that play alone made the internet go crazy, listen, y'all. The lesson here, it ain't over till it's over. And also, leave the crowd alone. We all know that the crowd can be crazy. They can be jerks. They can get on your last nerves. But in that moment, he looked crazy because he was taunting them, then realizes there's a last play, runs over, puts his hand up, and tips the ball into the wrong teammate. So leave the crowd alone or here's another idea. Just wait till the game's over. We all know how the crowd is, but wait till the game is over. At the end of that, I think because everyone was posting so many videos of that, he had to apologize. Stevenson apologized for his antics, which he pretty much had to because everyone was posting about it. Okay, another crazy moment in the NFL was Jameis Winston and the Browns upset the Baltimore Ravens, y'all. Yes, they hung on and beat the Ravens. I'm still trying to figure out how that happened. No one knows. It is what it is. That's football. And then last night, the 49ers beat the Cowboys. Not really a surprise, but they did beat the Cowboys. And yeah, the 49ers are killing it in the NFC West. They are now in a 3-way tie in the NFC West. So that is a fun division to watch. Speaking of the fun division to watch, the NFC North has been fun. The Lions beat up on the Titans, and they're now a game up over the Vikings. So much fun football to watch right now. And we all know that the Chiefs still remain undefeated through 8 weeks of football. So I look forward to seeing how long this streak will last. And finally, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. This past weekend, I headed to Miami to meet up with some of the Miami Dolphins wives and girlfriends at a private restaurant called Haiku. And the food was phenomenal. We talked football. We talked about Ladies Playbook, which provides resources and recommendations for NFL wives when they're relocating to a new city on a new team with their significant other. We also discussed how it feels to be the new girl and, finding community in a place that you feel like you belong is so important. And then we also talked about all the ladies in the NFL that are coming up with businesses. And so how we can support them depending on what their business is. We know that there's jewelry businesses out there by women in the NFL. We know that they're making blinged out jerseys. We know some are creating just fun custom outfits for you to wear during the game. And if you're a fan and you want something custom, it's not just for women in the NFL. If you want to get something done, reach out and support some of these women in their businesses. You just never know how much that would mean to them. And last but not least, we talked about showing up for each other and just taking in the experiences. We all know the NFL special. You never know how when you show up to something, how it's going to inspire you. So I just look forward to continuing to inspire these ladies, to uplift them, and to help them to be their best selves in any capacity that I can. I was in it for 11 years. And so however I can help really is my purpose and my passion. And I look forward to connecting with these beautiful ladies again. It was so fun. Speaking of beautiful ladies, let's now get into the conversation with the amazing and inspirational Peloton instructor you may have heard of, Kirsten Ferguson. On the podcast today, we have someone who is a motivational speaker. She is a professional mood booster, and a lot of people know her as a Peloton instructor. Please welcome to the show, Kirsten Ferguson. How are you?
Hey. Oh my gosh, I'm so good. Thank you for having me on here.
I'm so excited that you came on. You have blessed so many people in your life in this short amount of time. And I just want to get into all that you are and that you do. But I want to back it up a little bit because I always feel like this purpose that you're in came from somewhere else. So I would love to know more about your past and kind of how you made it to this point in your life.
It's so wild. You know, I really feel like I'm a cat. Like I've lived like 9 lives at this point, and I still feel so young. It's crazy. But, you know, many, many moons ago, I moved to New York City with a dream about being in fashion. I thought like, you know what better idea than just to move to New York City and live like Sex in the City and work in fashion. And so I went to FIT and studied fashion and hated it. And so then I started, you know, interviewing at different places, and I actually went for an informational interview at the NFL.
Okay.
So I've always had a love for sports. I've had a passion for it. I played basketball my whole high school career.
Yeah.
So I've always had a passion for sports. And so I walked in, there was no job like that. I was just walking for an informational interview, and she's like, "I like you. What do you think about sponsorship?" And in my head, I'm like, what the heck is she talking about? I don't know. I love sponsorship. She's like, great. We have a temp assistant position in sponsorship. Let me go see if the managers are here and you can interview. I'm like, amazing. And she walks out the room and I start Googling what is sponsorship. And they gave me the job. And so I worked in sponsorship marketing for 7 years at the NFL. And it was an incredible opportunity for me. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about the game. I learned so much about marketing and business. And I started at the NFL at a time where there were not a lot of Black women working in corporate America. And so I had to learn confidence of walking into a room when there's nobody in the room that looks like you and demanding respect.
Yes.
And that was my first really time doing that in my life, you know, and I always had a big fear of public speaking, and I always had a big fear of what people thought of me. So that was a real test in my life, to be able to move and hold space and be in rooms with people that did not look like me, that had better degrees than me. My degree was from FIT, and you're sitting in a room with people that went to Harvard, Yale, Princeton. And I'm like, I went to FIT, but I'm really great at speaking and bringing people together and having conversations and listening. I think that's a skill that a lot of people don't have either. And so it was a beautiful time in my life where I challenged myself for sure. And it was there where I met my then husband, who was playing in the NFL. And we kept it a secret for a long time because, like I said, I was one of the only Black females working at the NFL. And I didn't want, you know, it to be shadowed by that. So we kept it a secret for a while until I was at an ESPN The Magazine party and someone took a picture, and then all of a sudden it ended up in the magazine.
It blew up.
And I walked into work one day and my boss had the picture posted on my computer with a Post-it note. So we're keeping secrets now. And I was like, But, you know, luckily nothing came of that. And we were able to continue working and dating at the time. And it was all good. So I worked there for 7 years.
Okay.
And I worked, you know, Pro Bowls, Super Bowls, you know, all the things.
All the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff. But my last Super Bowl was the Beyonce Super Bowl halftime show. So I was like, all right, mic drop. Time to change it up.
Yes, we can't do better than B, period.
We can't really do better than that at that point. And I was also, I I knew I didn't want to continue at the NFL when I didn't really want my boss's job. And I was feeling like something is pulling me in a different direction and I don't know what it is. Okay. And at the time I thought it was motherhood. So I ended up stopping working at the NFL, and me and my husband started trying for children. And I just thought like it just happens easy. You know, I had this expectation, like we did it the right way. You know, we were married, we've been married for 3 years, and now this is just the next step. But that wasn't my story. And I, like so many other women I know now that I am so open about mine, walk through something similar in some capacity. And so we started trying. I got pregnant probably like 6 months after trying, and we were excited. We were like, it was around Mother's Day. I had the cards, I had the ultrasound photo, like I was going to do all the things. Yeah. And we went for our first ultrasound and there was no heartbeat. And I remember being like completely devastated, and I didn't know how to process that. And it was also like a very interesting miscarriage, because it was like almost a little bit of sign of life. So let's wait a week and let's wait another week. And waiting while you're trying to have a child it feels like forever.
Yeah.
And so once we learned that the baby was not going to be a viable pregnancy, we ended up passing the baby at home. And it was one of the most painful things I've ever gone through in my life. Yeah. It challenged my faith. It challenged me physically, mentally, emotionally.
How do you talk about
so I was in a really low
point. How do you even
point.
find the words to even discuss something like that?
I didn't. I suffered in silence, really, at that point. I suffered in silence because at that time, you know, we were in the NFL, and you know, people get married so young and everybody's having babies, and you're invited to baby showers and baby announcements, and it wasn't happening for me. And so I felt very alone and that I didn't have anybody to speak with about it. And even my husband at the time, like we all process things like that differently. And I didn't even know if I had him to talk about it with. So my saving grace was fitness. And I started cycling in a cycling studio by my house. And sometimes I would do 2-3 classes a day, and I would just ride in the dark to the beat of the music, and I would cry, and I would, it was my outlet. It was my outlet at the time.
Yeah. It sounds like your type of therapy, right? That was your therapy.
It really was. It was how I was able to cope in that time. Because then I had to have a procedure on my uterus that I didn't know I was going to have. And so it was more waiting, more time, more uncertainty. And then we tried again, and I got pregnant. Mm-hmm. And I remember being a big ball of nerves because I'm like, I've been here before. I know what this feels like. But with the first pregnancy, I didn't hear a heartbeat. So the second time we went for the ultrasound, we heard the heartbeat. And the baby was there. And I was like, wow, okay, this is really happening now. And this is going to be my story. And this is going to be my testimony. And
yeah.
So we went back because we were going to go travel for a trip to Israel. And we went, my doctor's like, let's just make sure everything's going good. So I went in for the ultrasound, and there was no heartbeat. And the baby was just laying at the bottom of the sack. And that's where I feel like I hit real rock bottom, because after all that waiting and time and praying, and I thought this was the end of that story, and it wasn't for me. And unfortunately, there were no answers. There was no reason why. I think we always get caught up in, well, at least if I know the reason, then I can understand it and I can tackle that. Yeah. But there was no reason as to why I kept miscarrying. So again, literally that day, I went to cycling studio and I just rode. I just rode. I rode through all of my pain.
Day.
I rode through all of it that day. And that's really how I helped heal my heart, because I didn't feel like I had anybody to talk to about it. So I just left it on the bike. And
when you say you hit rock bottom, like you said, at this time it was just like I hit rock bottom. What did that feel like for you? Because I know that there's women that are also in the same situation, and hearing this, they do, to your point, they do want someone that they can connect to, that can understand this journey. What did that look like for you?
It was hard, I'm not going to lie, and I think that's why I went to the bike, because it was like I couldn't even open up my phone without just comparing myself to other women, other people that were younger than me, or other people that were in the same lifestyle as me. And it wasn't happening for me. And it was almost like I couldn't turn it off. It was like everywhere I went, it's like, we talk about babies. You'd go to, team dinners and like, oh, let's talk about our babies. And, and I'm just sitting there, And so I was avoidant of a lot of public events at that time because I was hurting really bad. And even going to church was challenging. I've shared, I went to church on Mother's Day as a hope of like healing. And the pastor stood up and he said, would all the moms stand up? And he gave every woman a rose. And so to have to stay seated in that moment was so hard. It was so hard. But that day, I will never forget. I don't know who this one was. She came out of nowhere and she came up to me and she could tell like I was upset. And she said, God wanted me to tell you that you are not forgotten. And I looked at her and I was like, you have no idea what those words meant to me. Like just that, you are not forgotten. And I knew that I could get through this. And we did. And, probably like 4 or 5 months later, I got pregnant, and Eden Grace Ferguson is here in all her spicy gloriness. And then 15 months later, Emery Faith Ferguson is now here.
Back to back, look.
Back to back. I don't even know how it happened. It was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I like you. How in the world did this happen? She was 6 months old. But yeah. Goodness. And so literally, this is such a long story to get to answer your question. But so that, going through all of that and then coming out on the other side, I went back to ride in that cycling studio, and somebody said to me, have you ever thought about being an instructor? I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm a stay-at-home mom that's still trying to figure out her life, because I went through all of that. And though I love my baby so much, I still felt like something was missing. I still felt like my passion wasn't being tapped into. And then when that person said that to me, I was like, let me just audition and see what happens. Like, I know I'm not going to get it, but it would be a fun experience to just do it. And I never forget the day I went to the audition. It was like American Idol. There was hundreds of people at this audition.
Really?
And yes. And in New York City. And I was probably the oldest one there. And mind you, I was 31, 32, like not old.
Right.
But older than everybody there. And I'm like, okay. But I remember putting the mic on and looking in the mirror, and I said, wow, this is what you're called to do. This is what you're called to do.
You knew it.
I knew it in that moment. And yes, you go through imposter syndrome, feeling like, am I really capable of doing this? You aren't, these young people. But I knew I had a story. Yes. And I've held on to that. And that is my why. And everything that I do is sharing my life experiences in the hope that it will help give hope, inspire someone, allow someone to see themselves in my story and know that there's another side to it. So that's my why and all. And I never thought, that my pain, like what I went through, would fuel my passion. Oof. But it has, and it did, and it continues to happen for me.
That is beautiful. It really is. Okay, you have to tell us. So you go in, you audition, right? And you have all these feelings like, okay, I'm here and I love this, but there's all these people and you're thinking all these things in your mind. When did you get the call, or how did it work? Where they let you know? Do they let you know then and there, or did you have to wait for a phone call? How did it work?
So when I started teaching cycling, you wait for this email and they say, okay, you made it to the next round. And then you had to go through like a 7-week training process. And then you became a cycling instructor. But just like in my story, I got all the way to the end of that training program for cycling, and my daughter, Eden, ended up having a seizure.
Oh, wow.
Out of nowhere in my arms, and rocked my world because I prayed so hard. I went through all these things to have Eden, and now to see this happening in your arms, it shook me. And she had to get a lot of testing done and all that stuff. So I ended up walking away from that cycling opportunity in New York City. And thank God she's fine, all is well. And then I started teaching cycling at a gym out here in New Jersey. And I remember my first class, I was teaching like 14 people. And it was so exciting for me, though, because I felt like this was my place and this was my passion and this was my mission field of how I'm going to impact lives. And then every week it would just build. It would build. It would build. It would build. And it did. And then after that, the pandemic hit.
Yes.
So I had been teaching for like a year and a half. Pandemic hit. At the same time, I'm walking through a divorce. And I am in this big space of unknown and uncertainty and scared. And now I have to be a single mom to these 2 kids. And how am I going to provide and all these things? And I just remember how much peace and space the bike gave me. And so I busted out my old Peloton bike. I got on Instagram Live and I started teaching on the bike. And then one day, out of nowhere, I got a DM from Peloton.
Wow.
Yep. They slid in my DMs and said, hey, we think you're awesome. Would you like to audition? And I'm like,
you're like, is this real? Wait.
I was like, listen, if they ask me for my social security number, I know it's fake.
That part.
But how? Because at that time, think about it, during the pandemic, Peloton was the thing. Like everybody was on their Peloton bike, on their Peloton treads. They were engaging with the community. It was huge.
It was.
And they are reaching out to me, a newly single mom in New Jersey. And I remember being like so excited. Like, yeah, you go through really hard things and then you surprise yourself when you come out on the other side. There's nothing to be scared of here. This is what you do. And they got me though, because they're like, yeah. We love you. I know you're a cycling instructor, but what do you think about the tread? And I was like, wait, running? I'm sorry. What? I don't run. So there was that.
Yes.
Piece that I had to learn how to do, but yeah.
But I mean, you did it. You played basketball. You know, there's a lot. Look, how many suicides, how many, you know what I'm saying? Up and down that court. Like
up and down the court. But I never enjoyed running.
That's
I was
true.
never like, let's go out for a cute little 3 mile. No thanks.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me. I had asthma my whole life. And so I always use that as an excuse as to why I don't run. But I think it was such a beautiful opportunity to step into something that you don't normally do.
Yeah.
And prove to yourself that you can.
That part.
Especially when you're going through something really hard. is an incredible life lesson.
That's so true.
You know?
Because you think about, I mean, you're balancing motherhood, trying to figure out, okay, what exactly do I want to do? I'm doing I know I love what I'm doing, but what does that look like long term? You're trying to grieve a relationship that is no longer, right? That's a lot to take on at one time. Mm-hmm. But I feel like you keep saying, God keeps giving you these little bloop, keep going, sis. Keep going. You all right. I got you.
You be all right.
Yeah.
I'll never give you more than you can handle.
Yeah.
And I always felt like him pushing me in that direction.
Yeah.
Because I was like, wait, you want me to talk and run? You want me to do what I really feel like you're calling me to do while running? I'm sorry. What?
I didn't ask for this part.
But, you know, it has really become something that I enjoy doing. And
wow.
I think sometimes we have to get pushed into it.
Yeah.
In order to like try it. Right?
That's so true.
And I really bet on myself. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this thing, but I know going through this audition process, I'm going to learn a lot. I'm going to meet a bunch of people. And anything that I get along this journey is going to be incredible. So let's just try it. Let's try it. What's the worst that can happen? No. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Y'all thought of me.
That's right.
You know? And so every step, every interview, everything, I wasn't attached to the outcome. I was like, how awesome is this? Let's talk. Let's meet. Who are you? You know?
Yeah.
And then they chose me, you know?
I think it's so interesting when you talk about, you know, you being in the fashion world, then going into sponsorship, then this, you know, the bike becoming your safe haven, then to running, right? And how all of these things, whether we believe it or not, ended up intertwining. Like, you know, you are this incredible athlete that leaned into all of who you are, whether it's, you know, the sponsorship portion is part of what you do. The connecting with people is a part of what you do. Fashion is like you through and through. It's like you took all of these pieces and brought them all together. Like that's the beauty. And to your point of not saying no, you know, to your point of like, let's try it. Why not? Okay, God, if you say so, you know?
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I never really thought about it. But now that you laid it out there like that, yes, all of the things I went through or did are all things that I use and tap into today. Which is the hope, right? Like to someone on paper, it looks very strange. But when you think about it and the way you just laid it out, it all had to happen in order for me to get to this point.
Absolutely. And I think to your point, we do think of things very linear, like, okay, well, I want to go from here to here. And it's like, no, we got to paint the whole picture. Like you painted the whole picture in discussing all of the things that you have endured in your life and how, like, it's so much more beautiful, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Because what I think makes it so beautiful is that there's so many different unexpected twists and turns.
Yes.
And as much as we try to plan out our life, we aren't in control of it, you know? Yeah. And there's things that are going to get thrown at you. And it's like, okay, how are you going to use it for your growth? How are you going to use it to push you in a different direction or into a direction that you never thought you could go? And one of the things I often say in class is when you're going through something really hard, a lot of times you want to like close your eyes and like just pray that it goes over. But like, what if you opened your eyes? What if you opened your eyes because there's something waiting for you that you probably were not planning on or expecting? Like, open your eyes and try it. Just try it because that's what I did. And it has completely changed my life. I would have never, if you would have told me 5 years ago, this is where I would be at in my life, I would be like, yeah, okay. No way, you know?
And to your point, like, what's the worst that can happen? No. Like, that's it.
They say, you know, great. All right. A no is not a stop. A no is a pivot. All right. Part. So no here. Where else am I going to be guided and directed? Right. No's, sometimes I think people get caught in the no and then they harp on that versus it being like amazing because I really thought I wanted that. Thank you for letting me know now, because now I'm going to go this way. Yes. A no is not, there's nothing wrong with you. Yes. It's just like, no, that's not the path that you were meant to go on. It's supposed to be this way.
Exactly.
Direction. Yeah.
Amen to that. So true. I want to talk about motherhood for you, because I know what a blessing it's, your baby girls, just seeing them every single day. I know they're so inspired by you. Talk about how motherhood looks now. They're a little older now, and how, I think you go in the mama bear where you're caring for them as their infants, but then they start to see you, right? Talk about how that's been for you and how you've navigated motherhood and your career.
Beautiful question. And yesterday was World Mental Health Day, and I did a run. And recently I said this to one of my friends, and I said, I was having a really tough week, just balancing it all. Work, mom life, things happen. And I was like, some days I'm just really tired of being a superhero. Like, some days are just really hard. And the weighted cape that we wear every day as a mom sometimes gets heavy. And it's important to find where you can take off your cape and vent, talk, cry, run, do what feels good to you. That's so important. And that is something that I hold on to deeply. I know my girls, they're 8 and 9, and they think they're 18 and 19. And so we're in this phase of like, wait, the aliens have taken them and I don't know who you are living in my home. So it's so interesting. Like motherhood is there's so many different seasons of motherhood. Yes. And once you think you get out of a season, you kind of wish you can go back to the season prior, because you've never done this before. And you're like, what? Like I'm in the hormone phase. I'm in that like preteen phase where they're spicy and they learning things from their friends. And you're like, who are you? Or things I've seen on YouTube. And so I'm just like, there's some days where I'm like twitching. My eye is twitching. Because they're also so different.
Yeah.
I liken my kids to Sour Patch Kids. Like, one is super sweet and then one is sour and spicy and then they switch. So how do I do it all? I don't. I figure it out every day. Yeah. I have an incredible village of friends. My mom is huge support in my life. She was my first example of how you can do single motherhood and you can do it well. I lean on her a lot. I lean on my people, and I love what I do for my job. It is my happy place. Is it stressful? Are there things that are like, yes, but I love what I do. And I love that my daughters get to see what I do. And I know they've watched me go through really hard times, where I'm trying to navigate stuff. Have I tried to shield them from it? Yes, but they are smart. Kids know, when you're hurting. So they've seen me go through really hard things, and they've also seen me on the tread teaching, and then people coming up to me crying, saying how much they love my class, or saying how much, what I've said means to them. And they're like, Mom, you're like Beyonce. I'm like, yes, in my head. But they get to see that, and so I think it's important for kids to see, because sometimes they're like, well, you're just not here. It's like, no. I'm working to provide for the Sephora gift cards you would like.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
I'm like, why do you need skincare? You are 8. So I'm doing this to provide for that, but also like I'm making an impact on this world, and I want you to do the same. And I want you to see that it's possible for you, and it doesn't have to look how the world thinks it should look. It can look however you need it to, you know. Also, a year and a half ago, I had hip surgery, and they watched me laying horizontally on the bed, you know, in pain and walking with crutches and, you know, one crutch, two crutch, you know, all the things. They watched me go through all of that. But they're also on November 3rd going to watch their mom run the New York City Marathon, you know? So it's like, yeah, it's hard, but you know, we are the example. And when you carry that, some days it's hard, or, you know, most days it's hard, but you know, that's why it's so important to find your people and your space where you can take it off for an hour and release.
Yes.
It's important to have girlfriend time, where you can just laugh.
Fill my cup, sis.
Make space for that. Yes, my cup needs to be filled, honey, because you do not want me on an empty cup. It is not pretty.
Okay, you kind of dibble-dabbled there, talking about you running the New York Marathon November 3rd. You got to rewind back and talk about how you even got there.
Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. So
from a person that didn't even want to run.
For a person who was not a runner, I am not a runner. I want to say this loud and proud. Like I was not a runner. I was not a runner. And even to this day, I still battle with, am I a runner? You know, I'm trying to normalize the 10-minute mile, you know, like I cute and steady. That's it for me. I'm not trying to break no world records. You know, I'm gonna do it my way and what feels good to me. But, you know, teaching at Peloton, I work with superheroes. Every day, and they run marathons for breakfast. And yes, it's important to put blinders on and be who you are authentically, because that's who the Peloton hired me for a reason. But you can't help but be inspired. And I know every day when I'm teaching a run, there's somebody on there that's doing training miles for a marathon.
Yeah.
And I also know that I want to be, I don't work well in complacency. Like I want to constantly be getting better at what I do, like constantly raising the bar.
Yes.
And so how can I do that? Well, I need to experience what running a half marathon feels like. I need to experience what running a full marathon feels like so I can speak to it from an authentic perspective.
That's good.
And so a year and a half ago, I went out to train for a half marathon. I didn't do it smart. I didn't do it right. And I injured my hip. And I believe that pause season was so necessary in my life. There were so many things. Not only I needed to heal physically, but I had to heal emotionally and mentally that I had not addressed. So that season of my life was so necessary in order for me to regroup, refocus. So I'm grateful for that 4 months. I am so grateful for that 4 months. I learned so much about myself, about my confidence, about, you know, my past trauma with my dad not being in my life and how I attached myself to certain relationships. So that season was so necessary in order for me to move forward. Through therapy, through prayer, through just being still.
Yes.
Right? Like when you take away, like I told you, the way in which I healed myself and my hurt and my pain was through movement. And when you take that away and you take away what you love to do on a daily basis and you take away all of these things, you have no choice but to address the issue. And that's what I did during those 4 months. It was a lot of, you know, meeting with my life coach, prayer, journal work, trying to get to the root of it. I even did, what is it called? Hypnotherapy. So where you go under hypnosis and you go back to like your childhood and you see things from a different light. When I tell you it changed me, and I really feel like it healed a part of me that I had been walking with an open wound for 40 years and never healed it. And so that time in my life was crucial. It was crucial. And then I said, you know what? I got to prove to myself and my body that I am good. I'm healed. And so I set out to run a half marathon, which was 13.1 miles. And I did that last March. And it was awesome. Like, I felt great. I was like, this is awesome. I don't have to do this again. And then the hospital that did my surgery reached out, and they were like, we really want to tell your story. But we are a sponsor of the NYC full marathon. And I was like, good for y'all. Love that for you.
That's great. Congratulations.
That's so great, right? Congrats. And they're like, what do you think about running the marathon? And I was like, huh? I'm sorry, what? See, that may not be my ministry, but I was like, let me get back to you. And so I immediately text my run coach and I said, could I do this? And he's like, yeah, you can. You can. And I can get you there. I think now is the time to do it because I had just run the half. Mm-hmm. So from an endurance perspective, I just needed to hold on to that and then keep adding from building. There. Mm-hmm. And also, I turned 40 this year. And
40 where?
I said this
40
was the year of
where, sis?
Right. 40 where, skincare. Thank you. But I was like, this is the year of me doing things I've never done before. So let's add this one to the list. And here I am, like every week. I'm in awe of what I'm able to do and accomplish because I am entering the unfamiliar every week. Last week, I just ran 20 miles.
Unreal.
What? 20 miles?
Unreal.
And it was the first time where I was like, okay, I'm excited. I can do this. Yeah. So 3 weeks.
Once you hit that 2, right? Once you hit that 20,
once you see the 2, you're like, all right, it's only 6 more. You start doing the runner's math. 1, carry the 5. It's just like you figure it out. And we'll see.
That is awesome. We will be cheering you on. That's so amazing and so motivational because, I feel like there's so many people, like you are just really showing people to stop saying no and lean into the uncomfortable and just try it. Like, why not? Right?
Why not? If it's a no, it's a no.
Yeah.
But like, you could really surprise yourself. And I think that is why, Peloton brought me is like, my goal is to take people from walking to running. Like running is hard. I get it. But it is possible. Yeah. And also taking away the stigma of like what we feel like a runner should look like. And what, just because you're a runner doesn't mean you have to run at 8.0 speed.
Exactly.
I'm not doing it. So, and I teach it for a living. Running could look different for everyone, and it could be your own individual story and process. I love a walk run, run a little bit, walk a little bit, run a little bit, walk a little. I love a walk run.
Amen.
It's my favorite class to teach. And so, I think leading into that and saying, hey, let's just try it. Let's just try it. And there's something so beautiful about, like when I crossed that finish line at the half marathon, I was in awe of what my body and I was able to accomplish. Because running is not only physical, it's very mental. It's very mental. Like you have the endurance, your body can do it. It's what are you telling yourself in your head?
Yes.
At mile 8, 9. To get you to that finish line. So it's possible. And I think that's really why I am doing what I'm doing is to say, listen, I know it's hard.
Yeah.
I know it's hard. Well, let's keep going.
That's right.
Let's try it.
And you're also very motivational, and I hear the things that you say and how you really motivate your audience. And you're doing it from a place of experience. What would you say? I mean, I know you can't put it all into, a few, but like, what are the messages that you feel like resonates with your audience?
I think my biggest piece is to your point, I'm very vulnerable. I'm very vulnerable about the things I've been through, about not having it all together.
Yeah.
You know, I created the Ratchet Mom Club. Like, it's literally just not taking ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
You know, we're all figuring this out. These kids did not come out with a rule book.
Thank you.
They did not come up with a how-to. We are all doing this for the first time, and to give yourself a little bit of grace.
Yes.
You know, so I think that message is what aligns myself with a lot of our members. And just also being real with, hey, I wasn't always a runner and I'm here now. And, I think that's important for people to see is like, wait, well, I'm not a runner, but she wasn't a runner and now she's running.
That's
so
right.
maybe I can do this thing.
Absolutely.
And I think it's also, I think working out is one part physical and necessary, but also it's so important for mental health.
Yes.
And being able to work through and get through things that are difficult in your life. Mm-hmm. And so I think showing people that side of it is important. And that's why I've created, you know, certain classes where I do give affirmations and I really push the mental health aspect of it while challenging ourselves physically, because I think they go hand in hand.
Amen. They definitely do.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely do.
For sure.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you this question, even though you've already told us about the marathon. Mm-hmm. I know that that's next. What would you say, aside from that coming up, what do you feel like is next for you in life? Like, what are you thinking about, feeling? What does that look like for you?
You know, I ask myself that often, and it's hard because I know I should be thinking about it, but in my experience on this journey, it has always just come like at a random time. Like it's like God just opens up a door and I'm like, oh, all right, let's try this out. If it's a no, it's a no, but let's try it. Let's see, you know? And so it's hard to like really say what I want next. I think on my heart, I'm called to write an affirmations book. I really believe in the power of manifestation and affirmations. And I want to do a workbook that is both in alignment for the women and for children. I'm also watching my daughters. This preteen era is where it gets scary, where comparison comes in, where doubt comes in, where I just think body image issues come in.
Yep.
I've dealt with, you know, my daughters getting bullied because of their hair, because of their skin. And so I really want to create something that will help our younger generation see the beauty in themselves before the world tells them what they should look like.
I love that.
So that's really on my heart. And how I'm going to do that, I don't know. But that's what I've been praying on as of late. Yeah.
I love it. That sounds amazing. And you're right. My daughter is 14 now. She just started high school. But when I think back to middle school, kind of like that preteen, as they, you know, slowly start growing and changing, the world does try to shape them and tell them who they are. And it took a lot of, to what you're saying, me talking to her, leaning into her, reminding her of who she is, you know, and sharing with her quotes and beliefs that she could lean on to grow and become her best self. So I'm so, like, anything you need there, I would just let me know. I would be so excited to support you in any way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's necessary. It's needed, I think. Yeah. I think it's needed. Like, I want them to feel confident. And I think back to when I was their age, I was not confident. At all. I was terrified of public speaking. I was terrified of standing out. I tried so hard to fit in. You know, I was a mixed kid. My mom's white, my dad's black, and my hair I couldn't figure out, and so I was desperately try to make my hair look like the girls in my class. Why is my hair not blowing in the wind like theirs?
Yes.
Just questioning and doubting myself. And I don't ever want them to feel that way.
Yes.
And maybe it's a rite of passage in life, but like if there's anything that I can do to speak into them so that when they are out in this world and they have to face it, they can stand on their own 2 feet and say, no, that doesn't serve me. No,
yes.
I deserve better. No, I am called, created, and destined for greatness. So you can't put me down. I want them to walk with that.
Absolutely. 100%. Yes, I love that. I think it's great. And I love that you're doing it not just for women, but for the younger girls. And it's a part of healing ourselves too, to your point, like the things that we went through, right? So it's like a blessing all the way around. It's full circle in a sense.
Yeah, for sure. Because even when I got the call that my daughter was getting bullied, I don't even think it was necessarily so bad, but I just remember I was like triggered to how I felt. And it was more about me. She was good. She was like, I was like, ain't that the girl that was picking on you? And you wanted to have a play date. I said, now, wait a minute. What?
Right? That's me. I'm like I need to meet her mom.
Exactly.
We need to have a conversation.
We need to have a conversation first.
That is me.
Yeah.
Through and through. We are our baby's protectors. We are Mama Bear through and through. Okay, so before you leave, we have to play a game. It's called the 2-minute drill. And it's just a quick this or that or fill in the blank. Okay. And then, obviously, I know you have plenty to do, so I will let you go. But before you leave, I would love to do this. And it's super simple. I'm going to start the clock now.
Okay.
And it's just a way for people to get to know you a little more.
I love this. 2-minute drill. Let's go.
Okay. Name your favorite sports team.
Ooh, the Knicks.
Okay.
And the Liberty. Did you see the game last night? Wow. So exciting. Yeah.
Yes. Tea or coffee?
Tea.
What's your favorite type of workout?
Ooh, depends on the day. I love strength training.
Okay.
I love strength training. I know I probably should say running. I also love walking. Like walking outside is so therapeutic. I know you said to pick one, but it's hard for me.
That's okay. That's okay. Do you prefer working out in the morning or in the evening?
Oh, I'm a morning girl. Same. I can't work out past noon. It's not happening for me if I don't get it done in the morning.
Do you feel okay? So here's my next question because we can talk forever. Okay, listening to music in the morning or silence in the morning?
See, that's hard because I also love listening to music in the morning. Like I love my gospel playlist in the morning. Sometimes if I'm going to work, I like to listen to my playlist in the morning.
Yeah.
But also my job is very public facing, music, people, talking. So on the way home, silence. I was even in pickup line the other day and I just sat there in silence.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes, it really is. Okay. Bubble bath or hot shower?
Hot shower.
Reading a book or being in nature?
Ooh, good question. I kind of like both. I like, as of late, I'm on this like romance novel kick. So I like reading. How about reading in nature?
I love that. That's a great combo. Favorite place you've ever traveled to?
Ooh, this is hard. I would say South Africa.
That's on my list.
Jerusalem.
Oof.
It was beautiful.
Best lesson you've learned?
Oof. I am enough.
Okay, if you could tell your younger self anything, what would it be?
You are enough.
And if people want to get a hold of you, which I know that they will because you're just so inspirational. And I just want y'all to know she's also a keynote speaker. She does it all. If they want to get a hold of you,
let me know.
Where do they find you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is I am Kirsten Ferguson, which that has all my contact information on there. And then maybe Maybe a Peloton app, honestly. Maybe on the tread. If you don't have a tread, all good. Download the app. You can take my outdoor content. I teach walking, running, walk plus running. I teach hiking, which a lot of people sleep on. Hikes are fantastic.
Yes.
And really good for you. So maybe there and join the movement, the journey. Yeah.
Yes. Kirsten, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I've been stalking you for a while, so I appreciate you saying yes and spending time with me.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. This is awesome.
All right. Well, that's our show. For the latest on the Inside Lines podcast, make sure to follow on both Instagram and Facebook. You can also check out the website, InsideLinesPodcast.com, and listen to your favorite episode. Lastly, check out the YouTube page, Inside Lines Podcast, and make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that you know when a new episode comes out. And please leave an amazing 5-star review online and let us know who you'd like to hear on Inside Lines Podcast. Until next time, leave it all out on the field. Thanks for listening.